That's right. We're here in the nation's capital waiting like the rest of the country for those final election results to come in, and we all know it's going to be quite some time before we know whether or not President Obama will have a second time in the White House or whether or not there will be a new president in the White House. Joining me now is Michael Merola. He is the president and founder of Winning Strategies Washington, to give us a little context to this conversation. And I know you're modest, so I threw in the founder there. But thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You know, you and I were speaking very briefly, or actually you left me a message yesterday saying that you were campaigning, and
yes,
we won't go into the specifics of for which party.
Sure.
But you've been in Washington for quite some time. Give us some insight into what the pulse of this particular election is right now.
Sure. Well, I think we're on the cusp potentially of a very good night for Democrats. I think what we're seeing is validation of the president's overall campaign strategy, which was to really disregard national polls, disregard a macro approach to the campaign, and really, in effect, run 9 gubernatorial elections, really focused, targeted on 7 states, and really stressing the economic and social issues that mattered in those states. And I think it's paying off dividends for not only him, but Democrats across the country tonight, especially in the Senate. We've seen some of these key battleground states. Tim Kaine just won in Virginia. Sherrod Brown has won in Ohio. Senator Nelson has won in Florida. So hopefully that bodes well for the president.
And speaking of Florida, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, that strategy that you just mentioned, that seems to be boding well for the president. But Florida has turned out to be, you were just saying a few minutes ago.
Yeah, such a weird state. And you're from there,
yes,
correct?
I am.
So, I mean, I've heard it described as Alabama in the north, New York in the south, and the Midwest in the middle. And you have a lot of these tensions that you see playing out across the country in microcosm in Florida: old versus young, white versus non-white, church-going versus non-church-going. And so, you know, I think Florida and a lot of the other states, particularly with the Hispanic vote, may have serious repercussions for the Republican Party, depending on the outcome this evening.
One other voting group that we were talking about earlier are the young voters, and what role they'll play in this election, and especially with the integration of social media. What have we seen thus far? I was watching some of the feedback, and they were talking about all these tweets going out. I mean, that's definitely something.
Well, I think what's clear is the Republicans, to their credit, have really closed the technology gap with the Democrats. They're running a really smart, sophisticated ground game and social media game. What we're seeing anecdotally, I think, is that voter turnout is up. Even in some of the early voting, where it was at 30% in 2008, you're seeing it at 35 and higher. So far, some of the early projections. So I was personally very happy to hear that the young turnout seems to be developing. Going well.
We've been talking so much about the presidential election, but you were mentioning earlier about the House of Representatives and how this is going to be interesting because obviously, most likely the control with the Republican Party, but there's something different going on there.
National Journal, which is a Hill newspaper, Hill publication, was reporting today that even though we probably won't see a partisan change in the House, you're going to see some significant changes below the surface. You're going to have a third of the House, through retirements or the defeat of incumbents, are going to be new members. So you're basically going to have a third of the House without, with less than 3 years of experience. So you're going to have a sort of a rookie team handling a lot of these major issues that we're going to see in lame duck and into the new Congress. You're going to see Congress more divided than ever in the House because in 2010 there's a coalition of conservative Democrats called the Blue Dogs. They lost half their ranks in 2010. They're down. They went from 56 to 25. They're going to lose another half of those ranks. So you're going to see the Democratic Party really distilled down to its more liberal wing, and you're going to see the Tea Party with a significant showing as well. The Democrats couldn't have chosen a worse year than 2010 to sort of lose up and down the ballot because redistricting went the Republicans' way, and now they've locked in a benefit for the next 10 years.
Well, Michael Merola, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you, Yolanda.
We appreciate thank you very much, and that'll wrap it up here from Washington, D.C. Now back to you in the studio.
All right, Yolanda Vazquez, thank you very much. It is a good night for the GOP in one state, that is the state of Virginia.